Hello, welcome everyone back to our Dishu Bahalacha Shir. We're going to begin today with Pirkei Avos. We're holding in Perek Sheni and we're up to Mishnah Gimel. So the Mishnah says, Rabbi Gamliel benoi shel Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi Omer. Rabbi Gamliel, the son of Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi. This Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi is the same person that in the first Mishnah of Perek Sheni, Rebbe Omer. We call Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi Rebbe. Just give me 1 second here. I forgot to set my timer. Okay, there we go. So Rabbi Gamliel benoi shel Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi Omer. Rabbi Gamliel, the son of Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, said, Yafa Talmud Torah im derech eretz. Talmud Torah is beautiful when it is combined together with derech eretz, and we'll translate that in a moment. Sheyagias shnehem mishkachas avain. Because when you have both of these, when you work towards Talmud Torah and derech eretz, mishkachas avain. That's when sin, that's when avain is forgotten, that's when sin, we are removed from sin. So the Tiferes Yisrael actually says that derech eretz over here is a reference to Musar and Anova. It's like when we tell the children, derech eretz kadma l'Torah. I always like to say that that's one of the beauty that we have in the Torah HaKadoshah. One of the things that we have to be so thankful for, that we have the Torah. It's like I always say, in the Torah it's brought down that when we make Birchas HaTorah in the morning by davening, and we make a bracha, Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim. We thank the Ribbono Shel Olam that you chose us from all the nations, V'nasan lanu es Torasai, and you gave us your Torah. Baruch atah Hashem noisein HaTorah. Blessed is the Ribbono Shel Olam who gave us the Torah HaKadoshah. That bracha is not a Birchas HaMitzvahs. That's not a bracha that we're making like the bracha that we make before we eat matzah. And we say, Asher Kiddishanu b'mitzvaysav v'tzivanu al achilas matzah. That's a bracha that we make on a mitzvah. We have to make a bracha before we perform a mitzvah. That bracha, Asher Bachar Banu, on Birchas HaTorah, that's not a Birchas HaMitzvah. Asher Kiddishanu b'mitzvaysav v'tzivanu la'asoik b'divrei Torah, that's a Birchas HaMitzvah. Asher Bachar Banu is a Birchas Haidah. It's a bracha where we're giving thanks to the Ribbono Shel Olam for giving us a Torah. Thank you for giving us the Torah HaKadoshah. Like the pasuk says, Ki lekach tov nasati lachem, tarasi al tazovu. The Ribbono Shel Olam says, I gave you a lekach tov. I gave you a beautiful matana, tarasi al tazovu. Do not forsake my Torah. I gave you a treasure. I gave you something so beautiful. One of the things that we have to be thankful for, the beauty that we have and how lucky we have that we have a Torah. I want you to imagine for a moment, you have a person who does not have the Torah, a non-Jewish person who doesn't have the Torah HaKadoshah. He's in the bank together with his little kid, and his little kid is getting wild and he's running around and he's being not nice to people. So he turns to the kid and he says, "Hey, you're not acting nice." Well, why should I act nice? Who said you got to act nice? Why do I have to act nice? Where does it say anywhere that you got to act nice? I got to act nice because you want me to act nice? You don't always act nice either. So right now I'm not in a nice mood. I don't want to act nice. Now what are you going to tell the kid? You're going to tell the kid you got to act nice because what? Because I want you to? Or because if you don't act nice, I'm going to take away your iPhone 7? If you don't act nice, I'm going to give you a smack. If you don't act nice, I'm not going to take you to the ball game. If you don't act nice, don't ask me to take you to the mall. That's why you want the kid to act nice. That's supposed to make the impression on the kid they should act nice. You haven't taught him the value of acting nice. Now, how are you going to teach him the value of acting nice? So I guess you could tell the kid, well, if you want other people to be nice to you, you got to be nice to them. Again, there's no value in acting nice. I'm acting nice because you're telling me it's better for me if I act nice. All right. So then when I recognize that it's better for me, I'll act nice. Sometimes it's not better for me to act nice. Sometimes it might be better for me to act not nice. Over here, I don't need anything from that guy ever again. I'm never going to see him ever again. And right now, I could act not nice to him and I can get something that I want. So why shouldn't I act nice? When a Yiddish father is together with his kid and the kid is not acting nice, he could look at the kid and say, "Hey, derech eretz kadma l'Torah." What do you mean? You got to have derech eretz. Derech eretz is even more important than learning Torah. Derech eretz kadma l'Torah. Says who? Because it's a Mishnah. Because we learned it in the Torah Kedosha, because the Torah Kedosha tells you that you have to act nice. And if the Torah Kedosha tells you that you have to act nice, that means the Rebbeinu Shalom told you have to act nice. So it's not me, and it's not because it's good for you, it's because Berurah Olam said so. It's because the Torah HaKadosh says so, because there's intrinsic value in it, because the Rebbeinu Shalom who made you and gives you everything that you have, and who made the world, tells you that that's the way a person is supposed to act, that that's what works for your neshama, that that's what's intrinsically good. So there's something divine behind it. There's something very powerful behind it. There's something palpable behind it. So when you have a life with Torah, when you have a life with Kedusha, so you have something to base things on. You look at what goes on in the street, they have nothing. They don't have anything. And they have nothing to pin anything on. And that's why you have what you have in the world nowadays. When you go ahead and look out the street and see what's walking down the block in front of your house, that's why, because there's no Torah Kedusha. But in any case, so the Tiferes Yisrael says, Yafa Talmud Torah im derech eretz. Talmud Torah, learning Torah is not enough. Torah has to come together with Musar and Anova. It has to come together with learning Musar, with learning how to comport yourself, to work on your midos, to work on your ethics, to comport yourself the way a Frum Yid is supposed to comport himself. It's not enough to just be able to talk about the lumdus of Yir Shalom Midas. It's not enough to go just say, I made a siyum on a Masechta, now I could act like a Chayarah. No. It has to come together with Musar and Anava, together with humility. You want to be a Torah-dika person. A Torah-dika person is a person who not only learns Torah, but he takes the Torah into himself and he works on himself with Musar and Anava. And only then, a person could be a walking Shas intellectually. He might have learned all the intellectual pursuits of Shas, and it could be he could write a nice Chabura. But if he didn't take the Torah into himself and allow the Torah to change what he is and allow it to form him into a person that people deal with him and say, what a wonderful person. That's a Torah Yid. That's the way a person is supposed to act. A person who's a walking Kiddush Shem Shamayim. A person who other people look at him and say, Reb Pliny, such a wonderful person. It's such a pleasure to deal with him. It's such a pleasure to be around him. That's what the Torah does to a person. That's when you take the Torah into yourself, when it's not simply an intellectual pursuit. So that's what Rabban Gamliel ben Aisha Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi says here. Yafa Talmud Torah derech eretz shehigia shneim mishkachas avoin. V'chol Torah she'eini ma malacha. He continues and he says, any Torah that does not have with it some type of malacha. Person has to have some way to support himself. Seif b'teila v'gereres avain. In the end, the Torah is going to be bottled. He's not going to be able to keep on learning Torah. And not only that, it's going to bring him to sin. Now, a person who's going to say to himself, I want to be totally removed from Olam Hazeh. I want to be mufka, totally, from Olam Hazeh. I want to sit in the Mismedrash Daled Amos Shel Halacha. I only want to learn Torah. I don't even want to make any ishtadlus for parnasa of any kind, and I don't want to make anybody else to make ishtadlus for parnasa on my behalf. So he doesn't want to work, and he doesn't want his wife to do anything to earn any money, and he's not. He says, "I'll live ba'anius. I don't mind living ba'anius." You know what? Says the Mishnah v'chol Torah she'eini ma malacha sefer b'teila v'gereres avain. And there's a lot of reasons for this. First of all, the bottom line is the Rebbeinu Shalom put you in a world where you have to eat, and you have to have a roof over your head, and you have to have somewhere to sleep, and you have to be able to pay the electric bill, and you have to put clothes on your back, and you have a wife, and you have children, you have chiyuvei ksuba, you are responsible to support your wife and to support your children. I don't want to get to it. It's not clear. I'm just saying that because halachically, I don't want to make a statement that's not halachically accurate. But certainly, you married somebody and you signed a ksuba. You have a chiyuv to support your wife, and you have a chiyuv to support your wife in style. When I say in style, what I mean is your chiyuv to support your wife is whatever style she is accustomed to in her social circles, or if your social circles have higher standards than her social circles, then you have to bring her up to the standards of your social circles. If her social circles have higher standards than yours, you have to bring her up to the level of her social circles. And you signed a ksuba. You didn't sign it, but you have a ksuba. You gave your wife a ksuba. These are responsibilities that you have. Also, it's very nice. A person will say, I don't mind living banias. You don't know that. When you're hungry, you don't know what you're going to do. When you can't pay the bills and when the pressure ramps up and the stress ramps up, you don't know that you're not going to come to Avera. That's when suddenly people start looking and they say, well, I could cheat a little bit over here, I could cheat a little bit over there because of desperation. Person is not supposed to put himself into a position of desperation. Person is not supposed to fool himself and say that somehow I don't need anything. That's not true. You do. You should be mistapik b'mu'at. You don't need to have the latest and the greatest, and you want to say, I don't need a lot, you could say, I don't need a lot. But then there's also another factor. You also have children. Are your children on board? Are your children going to be happy being raised that way? Or are your children going to rebel? Are your children going to turn around, and are your children going to say, a Torah life is not for me? My father lived a Torah life, it worked for him, but every time I saw him, his suit was ripped and his suit was stained, and he was hungry, and he never looked good, and he was never happy, and my house wasn't a happy house because we never had what we needed, so Torah life is not for me. And if somebody says a Torah life is not for me, that might not only mean that a life of Torah learning is not for me, it might also mean that a Torah living life, chas v'chalila, is not for me. Because somehow they identify the Torah with poverty and with difficulty. It's not supposed to be that way. V'chal Torah she'eni ma malacha, Seif b'tela v'gereres avain. Excuse me. It has to be a situation that can work. Again, we don't have to have the latest and the greatest. I don't like what I see nowadays when somehow people think that they have to be driving the latest model car and they have to have a bigger house and a fancier house. And when you go into the suit stores, it has to be, every store is trying to outdo the other one. The clothing can only get more expensive and more expensive and more expensive, and everybody feels that they have to have bigger and better and fancier. That's going down the road of chasing gashmias. That's not a good idea. That certainly is Seif b'tela v'gereres avain. It's like I always say, Gashmias and Ruchnias, oil and water. Gashmias and Ruchnias do not peacefully coexist. Hisaskus ba'olam hazeh, being busy with olam hazeh, being busy with Gashmias, harei zeh mimafside hazehirus, the Mesillas Yesharim says. It takes away from zehirus. Zehirus means to be careful in divrei Torah, to be careful not to be over averis, to be careful to live according to the Torah Kedosha. When we start getting too involved in Gashmias, harei zeh mimafside hazehirus. There's no way around it. The busier you are with Gashmias, the more you chase Gashmias, the more it takes you away from Ruchnias. So the chasing of Gashmias is a bad thing. At the same time, a normal level of Gashmias, person has to be able to eat. He has to be able to put 3 meals on the table. He has to be able to feed his children. He has to be able to go dressed in the street looking like a mensch and comporting himself like a mensch. He has to be able to live like a mensch. He has to be able to have a decent roof over his head and to shelter his family in a normal way, in a proper way, so people don't feel that they're living banius, that they're living in poverty, that they're living without. So there has to be a careful balance over there. I like to say over here also that there's another lesson here in this sentence of the Mishnah. The Chol Torah she'eni ma malacha. The Torah that you learn has to be combined with a certain level of malacha, meaning malacha in Torah. The Torah that you learn has to be real. It has to be a working Torah. It can't just be a theoretical Torah, that I learn the Torah, but I don't put the Torah into practice. Person has to live the Torah. It has to be a working Torah, so that the Torah is reality. It's like Rav Moshe used to say. Rav Moshe was not a fan of the yeshivas that would start out the children learning Gemara for the first time, learning brachas. The minig, the old minig, he always said, was to learn Eila Metzias, not to learn. This was a newfangled idea, came about decades ago, to start learning brachas. And one of the reasons that they liked it, because they said, you know what, if we learn brachas, that's something that the children can identify with, saying Kriya Shema. We teach them to say Kriya Shema at a young age. Rav Moshe said, no, it's quite the opposite. Why? How many people daven at a 9 o'clock minyan on Shabbos morning, even when Zman Kriya Shema is only a few minutes after 9? So they're not going to say Kriya Shema b'tzibur. They're not going to daven Kriya Shema by that minyan during Zman Kriya Shema. They're going to have to get up, say Kriya Shema before davening, then go to shul and daven and say Kriya Shema. Unfortunately, a lot of times people forget. They forget to say Kriya Shema first, so they missed Zman Kriya Shema. So here you have a kid who's first starting out to learn Gemara. He starts learning Gemara and he says, aha, there's such a thing as Zman Kriya Shema. You're supposed to say Kriya Shema at a certain time. You have to finish it before a certain Zman. But we go to daven after the Zman all the time. Oh, so what I learn in Gemara has nothing to do with what I really do. So now the Gemara learning, the Torah learning, is only a theoretical exercise. It's not real. Well, if that's not real, then anything else that I learn is also not real. It says you're not allowed to steal. Okay, so it's just like Kriya Shema. Doesn't mean that you really can't steal. And that's the worst thing that you could do to a child, is to show him that the Torah HaKadosh is divorced from reality, is divorced from real life. No, v'chol Torah she'eini mamalacha. The Torah has to be a working Torah. Put the Torah to work. A child has to see, and an adult has to live, that every word of Torah that I learn is real, and it's incorporated into my life. That's also why I like to show the children. I love to take the children during the summer to a farm, and I love to show them the split hooves on the animal. Show them that the Torah is a real Torah. Show them what it's all about. Show them how shechita works. Show them how mitzvahs are done. Take them with you to pick up the arba minim. Take them with you to bake matzahs. Always expose them to the working of mitzvahs, and make sure to incorporate the Torah HaKadosh into your life. The Chol Torah she'eini mamalacha. If it's not a working Torah, Seif b'teila v'gerera savain. If it remains theoretical, chas v'chalila. If it's not incorporated into life, so then in the end it'll be batal, because why should it hold you? It's not real anyway. V'gerera savain, and then a person will chas v'chalila come to chet. That's where we'll stop in the middle of this Mishnah. It's Hashem. We'll continue the Mishnah another time. Now let's go back into Mishnah Berurah. We are holding now on Reish Mem Tes Amid Beis. We are beginning Siman Shin Pei Beis. Im diras eina Yehudi ma'akeves be'eruvoi. Does the residence of a non-Jew, is that ma'akev an eruv? Does that negatively impact the eruv so that the eruv does not work, is not effective? Ubai chaf seifim, and in this siman we will have 20 seifim. Says the Mechaber in Sif Aleph. Hador im akum b'chotzer. Somebody who lives together with a non-Jew in a chotzer, einoi oiser alav. The residence of the non-Jew does not aser the Jewish fellow in tiltal in his chotzer. So if you have a chotzer, and in the chotzer you only have two houses, Ruvain the Yid lives in one house, and Tony the non-Jew lives in the other house, and they're sharing a common chotzer. If it would be two Yidden living in the chutzner, now you would have a problem. Now you cannot be metaltal from the house to the chutzner, from the chutzner to the houses, without combining into an eruv chatzeros. However, if you only have Ruvain the Yid and Tony the non-Jew living in the chutzner, Ruvain could be metaltal from his house to the chutzner, from the chutzner to his house. He does not need an eruv chatzeros. Ad sheyihiyu shnei Yisraelim darim b'shnei batim, until you have a situation where you have two Yidden living in two different houses, and then you have a non-Jew. So now you have three houses in the chutzner. You have Ruvain the Yid living in one house, Shimon the Yid living in another house, Tony the non-Jew living in a third house. Now you already need an eruv chatzeros, because Ruvain and Shimon aser on each other. Now that you already need an eruv chatzeros, now Tony is also going to be a problem, and you're going to have to deal with Tony as well in order to make an eruv chatzeros over here. Va'oisrim zalzeh, when you have a situation where you have at least two houses with Yidden, so that they aser on each other, oz ha'akum oiser alehem. Now the non-Jew is going to aser on the two Jews. It would not be effective for Tony, the non-Jew, to say, I'm going to be mevatel my rishus. We just finished the very hard siman of Siman Shin Pei Aleph, talking about bittul rishus, where we said that one yid, if one yid is not included in the erev, he could tell the other yidin, I'm going to be mevatel my rishus to you. I remove myself from my rishus. I remove myself from my property in the chutzner. I give over my rights to you. So now I'm a non-entity. You guys joined in an erev. Now the erev is good. Over here by Tony the non-Jew cannot be mevatel his rishus to the other yidden. Ella, rather, what do you have to do to make tiltal in this chutzner mutter? Tzarech sheyaskiru mimenu. The other yidden have to go over to Tony the non-Jew, and they have to tell him, we want to rent your rishus in the chutzner. We have a technical problem. We can't carry things. We can't transfer things from our houses to the yard and from the yard to our houses on the Shabbos. So we have to come to you. We need you to do us a favor. We're going to give you a quota. We're going to give you a token amount of money, and we're going to rent from you your rights in the chutzner. And then the erev is good, and then assuming that they themselves, the yidden themselves, made in a Ruve Chatzeros, now when they rent the rishus from the non-Jew, now the erev will be effective, and now tiltal will be mutter in the chutzner. Now we're going to go into the Mishnah Berurah, and we'll have to see what this is based on. Before we dive into the Mishnah Berurah, I'll just give you the basics. This comes from a Mishnah in Eruvin. In the Mishnah in Eruvin, we have a Machlokes Reb Meir, the Tanakam in the Mishnah, and Rebbe Elazar ben Yaakov. And the question is, it says over there that the dira of a non-Jew is a problem in a chutzner, and the Yidden have to rent the rishus, like we just said, from the non-Jew. The machlokes is, Reb Meir says, it doesn't matter how many people live in the chutzner. Even if there's one Yid and one non-Jew, right away you have a problem. You have two people living in the chutzner. You have the Yid and the non-Jew. The Yid has to rent from the non-Jew. Rebbe Elazar ben Yaakov says no. Rebbe Elazar ben Yaakov says it's only a problem if you have two Jews and one non-Jew. Then it's a problem, and then you have to rent. The Gemara explains what's at work over here. The Gemara says that in reality, Reb Meir and Rebbe Eliezer ben Yaakov both agree that the dira of an akum, the residence of a non-Jew, lo yishmei dira, that's not considered a residence in the context of a Ruve Chatzeros. So really, when a non-Jew lives in the chutzner, really he should not aser on anybody. The same way we said earlier that a dira b'loy bailim loy shma dira, when you have a house that's empty, that's not inhabited, nobody's living there, so even though there might be a perfectly good house in the chutzner, but the owner is not living in the chutzner, it's an empty house, he's living somewhere else and nobody's using his house, so he said a dira b'loy bailim loy shmei dira. A dira that doesn't have anybody living in it is not a dira. It doesn't aser on anybody else. So too, dira sa'akum lo yishmei dira. The dira of a non-Jew really doesn't aser on anybody. Oh, so why do you have to be masker rishus? How come, according to Reb Meir, even if there's only one non-Jew, you have to be masker rishus, and according to Rebbe Elazar ben Yaakov, only if there's two? So the reason is very simple. The reason is the Chachamim said, we don't really want this situation. We don't really want these Jewish people living together with this non-Jew, because we don't want that the Yidden should learn from the Goyim. We don't want the Yidden living together with the Goyim. We really want the Yidden living amongst Yidden. We don't want Yidden living together with the Goyim, intermingling with them and watching what they eat and watching how they act and watching how they grow up and listening to the music that they listen to and watching what they aspire to and how they live, because we don't want Yidden learning from Goyim. So we don't want Yidden and Goyim living together in a chutzner in the first place. Oh, so what are we going to do? What we're going to do is like this. We're going to say, even though dira sa'akum lo yishmei dira, really, we're going to say that the non-Jewish resident of the chutzner does make you a problem. Now on Shabbos, you're going to have a problem, because you're going to make it a Ruve Chatzeros with all the Yidden, but now you're going to have to go over to Tony the non-Jew, and you're going to have to be masker rishus, you're going to have to rent the rishus from Tony the non-Jew. How are you going to explain this to him? You're going to go over to him. You're going to start telling him mumbo jumbo. You're going to tell him, well, it's a technicality, the Sabbath. common properties, individual properties, eruve chatzeros. Don't worry about it. Don't worry your head about it. All we got to do is we got to give you a quarter and we got to rent rishus from you. So now you're going to have non-Jews and you're going to have non-Jews. You're going to have one non-Jewish person who's going to say, these Jewish people, they're weird. Fine, they want to give me a quarter. Fine, I get a quarter out of the deal. What do I care? But then there are non-Jews that are going to say, what? What's going on over here? You trying to trick me? What is this? Is this some kind of heebie-jeebies? Like the Gemara says, they're going to be choshed from maisek shafim. They're going to say, what kind of kishuf are you doing over here? Some non-Jews are very superstitious people. Are you trying to put the whammy on me? You're trying to I don't know what you're doing. You're calling up spirits and you're trying to put some kind of curse on me or something. Are you giving me a cursed coin? Are you giving me, I don't know what you're doing, but you're asking me to give a quarter. You're going to give me a quarter and I'm giving you my rishus. What does that mean that I'm giving you my rishus? What am I giving away? I don't like this whole thing. Leave me alone. It's like nowadays, when you have these towns where the non-Jewish people in the town realize that if you want to keep the Jews out, go after their Eruv. They put up these funny sticks on the electric poles, and they put up these boards, and they make their strings so that they could carry. So some of them are simply just using it as a way to keep Jews out of their neighborhood. I don't want Jews in the neighborhood, and I found out the way to keep Jews out in the neighborhood is to stop them from making an Eruv. But then you do have those who look at it and they say, I don't know what's going on here. They're putting up strings and they're putting up boards and they're doing funny things and I don't know what this does. I don't know if it has an effect on me or not, but I know that it makes me feel funny and I don't like it, so I don't want it here. And it reminds me of actually maybe a little bit of a humorous story. Baruch Hashem, it had a humorous end of the fellow who was, one Jewish fellow was walking alone somewhere not in the best neighborhood, and he was accosted by a couple of non-Jewish thugs who came over to him and started giving him a hard time. So he very solemnly took his yarmulke off his head, held it in the palm of his hand like this. He took, I think, a pen out of his pocket, and he puts the pen into the yarmulke, and he starts stirring it around very slowly, and he closes his eyes, and he looks up at the sky, and he says, Yukum Porkan Min Shemaya, China V'chista, V'rachame. And you know what? They turned around and they ran. They didn't know what was going on. They didn't know what these words meant. They didn't know what this guy was doing, but it sure made them uncomfortable and they were worried. So they turned around and they left. So it's funny, but that's what's going on over here. The Chazal said, what we're going to do is, we're going to make you be maskir rishus from the non-Jew. That sometimes is going to lead to a problem. The non-Jew is not going to be happy allowing you to be maskir rishus from him. He's not going to want to rent you his rishus. Now you're not going to be able to be metaltal in the chutzner. So the end is going to be, either you're going to buy his house, or you're going to pick yourself up and you're going to move somewhere else, but you're going to live amongst Yidden. You're not going to live amongst Goyim. I once had this. A fellow that I knew peripherally from some business dealings, who lived in middle of nowhere. He lived in a housing complex in New Jersey without another Jew in sight. And during the week, he got in his car. He went to a nearby Jewish neighborhood to daven, but he wasn't even within walking distance on Shabbos. So on Shabbos, he always davened b'yechidus, and he always davened alone. I asked him, what kind of way to live is that? He said, well, if I live over here and I don't have a minyan close by, so I don't have a chiyuv. So it's not a problem. It's not that I'm shirking my responsibility to daven with a minyan. I'm not shirking my responsibility of kriyas HaTorah. If I live over here, I don't have a chiyuv. I said, yeah, but what's going to happen with your family? This is not a way for a Jewish fellow to live. Unfortunately, the end of the story was that his daughter is not from. His daughter is a Machal Shabbos, because what do you expect? She grew up totally amongst Goyim. It's very important for people as much as possible that they should live amongst Yidden. They should live in a Yiddish neighborhood. That certainly that's what their social circles should be, and that's who they should be involved with, and they should make sure that that's who they learn from. They shouldn't be learning chas v'chalila from non-Jews. Okay, so that's what's at work over here. Says the Mishnah Berurah, nice cut and aleph. Einoi oiser alav. Really, this residence with the non-Jew does not aser on the Jews. They may ikradin, because really, may ikradin, as far as the din itself, as far as the halacha itself is concerned, diras akum ein chashuv dira. The residence of the non-Jew is not considered a residence in the context of the halachas of eruv chatzeros. Elo the chachamim gazru de la yaser alav. Rather, the Chazal made a gzera that this goyish residence should aser on the Jewish residents. Why? Kedei shelo yoder imay v'yilmad mimaisav, so that they shouldn't live together with him and they shouldn't learn from his ways. V'loy gazru. However, according to Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov in the Mishnah in Eruvin, and that's who we paskin like, the Chazal did not make this decree. The Chazal did not say that you have to be maskir rishus because the guy asers on you. Ela b'davar d'shchiach. Only in a common situation. That's a rule of thumb that we have throughout Shas, that when Chachamim made gezeros, they only made gezeros by a davar that's shchiach, by something that's somewhat commonplace. Something that's not common, they weren't geyser on. What's commonplace? Tahainu b'mokim shedarim kama Yisraelim. It's really only commonplace for Yidden to be living with a guy in their midst when there's more than one Yid. Avaloi b'chad bayis. But when there's only one Jewish house and then one Goyish house, that's not common. And it's very important to see why Chazal said that that's not common. It's not normal for one Yid to live alone amongst Goyim, because the Goyim were chashud, they were suspect of murder. And it's not a Yid to live alone amongst Goyim. You got to realize what you're living amongst. Unfortunately, the non-Jews were suspect of murder, especially of a Jew. So a Jew should not be living alone amongst non-Jews. And the truth is that this is something that I have to say also, and that is that it pains me to see the trust that a lot of people, a lot of unzera, a lot of Frum Yidden, the level of trust that they give to people who live without a Torah. And that's very dangerous. You have to realize what a person who lives without Torah, person who lives without Torah has no guard, no guard posts. He has nothing to steer him in a good direction. He has nothing to keep him away from even doing the worst things. And all you have to do is turn on the news nowadays and watch the news and look at the murder and mayhem. And sometimes even from people that you would look at and you would say, people will say, he's such a good guy. I can't believe that such a thing happened. Yeah, get a little alcohol into him, get him drunk, get a little drugs into him, or get him angry, or get him upset, and you don't know what happens. Look at these crazy road rage stories. Somebody looked at somebody the wrong way in a car, and the guy went dead and pulled out a gun and shot him. You have to warn the teenagers nowadays, especially, that they have what my shver would say, Groise Knackes syndrome. They're very full of themselves, and they're driving on the street, and somebody cuts them off, and they go and they honk, or they yell out the window. I tell my children, don't honk, and don't yell, and don't be a wise guy. Just turn the other way and go, because you don't know who's in that car, and you don't know what he is, and you don't know what he's capable of, and you don't know what he's carrying. And like it says over here, when you don't have a Torah Kedosha, you're chashud al shvichas damim. Says the Mishnah Berurah weiter, so this halacha that the guy is going to aser, is going to prohibit tiltal in the chatzar, is going to aser on the other yidden, is only when you have two other yidden living in the chatzar in two houses. Says the Mishnah Berurah, beis b'shnei batim, they're living in two houses. Avol b'chad bayis. Let's say you have a bunch of yidden living together in one house. So you have house number 1 in the chatzar has 10 yidden living in it. And house number 2 in the chutzner has Tony the non-Jew. Does Tony the non-Jew aser on the other 10? No. It has to be that they're living in different houses. Afilu yesh kama anoshim. Even if there's a lot of people living in house number 1, a lot of Yidden. V'oichlim kalechad b'fnei atzmai. And even if the 10 Yidden that are living in house number 1 each eat on their own space. They each eat by themselves. They don't eat in a common dining room. Kechad chashivi. They are considered one, and the goy does not aser on them. I would point you to Shar Hatzion Ois Cotton Bays. The Chavetz Chaim says over here, Va'ayin b'pri megadim shemistapik tzas. He has a suffix, he has a doubt. Im dafka b'shnei batim, does the mechaber mean over here that the only time the non-Jew asers on the Jews is if you have two Yidden living in two separate houses, but if you have a multitude of Yidden living in one house, who are you? Then no matter what the situation in that one house is, the non-Jew is not going to aser on the Yidden. So if you have 10 Yidden living in an apartment building, and they each have their own apartments, or if they all live in one house, but they each have their own separate rooms, and they each eat in their own room. So in that situation, the Yidden in that house aser on each other in their house, right? Let's fix this in our minds. Let's say we have one house, and it has 10 rooms. And Ruvain rents one room, Shimon rents another room, Levi rents another room. They each have their own distinct rooms, and they all eat in their own rooms. Well, then they need an Eruv Chatzeros. If they want to share a common area inside their house, or they want to be able to go from one room to another room, they need an Eruv Chatzeros. They aser on each other. So when the Mechaber says over here that in order for the non-Jew to aser on the Yidden have to be in two separate houses, does that mean that even in this situation, since they're in one house, even though they aser on each other in their house, still the non-Jew does not aser on them because they're in one house? Or does he mean to say that they have to live in separate houses, meaning that they have to be in separate houses so that they aser on each other? But if they live in one house and they aser on each other in one house, then the non-Jew also asers on them. So the Pri Megadim is mesupik. Let's see it inside. He doubts, im dafka b'shnei batim, does the Mechaber mean that the non-Jew only asers on the Yidden if they live in two separate houses, but if they live in one house, even if they aser on each other in that house, still the guy doesn't aser on them? Or maybe the Mechaber means, hu hadin b'shnei chadorim, even if the two Yidden are in separate rooms in one house, kevin she'oisrin zeh al zeh, since they aser on each other, the non-Jew asers on them as well. Achein l'das Magen Avram Pashut, according to the Magen Avram, it's very clear, tishnei chadorim chashivi kishnei batim, that two separate rooms with the Yidden aser on each other in one house, that's considered two houses. That's why they aser on each other. It's two separate houses. Ayin sham. V'chein mashma me'agra be'Berurah, and the Gra is mashma that way as well. That even if the Yidden live in one house, but if they're in separate rooms so that they aser on each other in the house, then the non-Jew in the other house is going to aser on them as well. Says the Mishnah Berurah, nice cut in Gimel, va'oisrim zeh al zeh. The Mechaber said that the Yidden live in two houses and they aser on each other. What is the Mechaber coming to contrast to when he says that the Yidden have to aser on each other? La'afuke, this stands in contrast to b'makom she'enam oisrim zeh al zeh. You could have a situation where you have two Yidden or three Yidden or five Yidden living in five different houses in the Chatzar, and they still do not aser on each other. Kigayin, for example, of Ubanov. Let's say you have a father living in house number one, and then you have his four children living in another four houses, and then you have another guy. In that case, even though you have five Yidden living in five distinct houses, and even eating on five distinct tables, they don't aser on each other if they're getting their support from the father. So, a case of a father and his children, shemekablim prasme itay, where the children are supported by the father, she'enam tzrichim la'arev, so now they don't have to make an erev because they don't aser on each other. That's what we learned earlier. Even though each one is living in a separate house, in such a case, the guy would not aser on them, because even though you have one Goyish household and five Yiddish households, the five Yiddish households don't need an Eruv Chatzeros because they don't aser on each other, because it's a father and four children where the children are supported by the father. In such a case, the five Yiddish households would not be required to rent rishus from the non-Jew. Says the Chavetz Chaim in Eis Katan Daled, Oz Hanachri Oyser Aleim. When you have at least two Yiddish households and then a non-Jewish household, then the non-Jew is going to aser on the Yidden. even if the Yidden go ahead and combine in the Ruve Chatzeros, their Erev is not effective until they rent the Rishus from the non-Jew. So if you have 10 houses in a Chatzer, 9 of them are Yidden and 1 is a non-Jew, even if the 9 Yidden combine and make it a Ruve Chatzeros, if they're not maskir Rishus from the one non-Jew, their Erev is not effective. Says the Mishnah Berurah nice cut in hay. The Mechaber said that don't think you could use bittul rishus over here. The non-Jew can't nullify his rishus. He can't give over his rishus to the Yidden. Veina moil. We just finished that very complicated Siman Shin Pei Aleph, that if you had a bunch of Yidden living in a Chatzar, and one of them neglected to join the Erev, he could be Mavatal Rishus to the others. That does not work by a non-Jew. In Shin Pei and in Shin Pei Aleph, we said that a Yid could be Mavatal his Rishus to other Yidden. A non-Jew cannot be Mavatal his Rishus. Why? V'atam deloy mahani. The reason this is not effective, the reason bittul rishus is not effective by a guy, the Chavetz Chaim brings this down from the Gemara in Eruvin. Again, mishum deratzu chachamim la'archu ke diras Yisrael min ha'akum. Because the whole goal over here is to cause a distance between the Jew and the non-Jew. What we want to do is we want to make it uncomfortable for the Yidden to be living together with this guy. So we don't want them to be able to get away with bittul rishus. We don't want the Yidden to be able to go over to the non-Jew and say, listen, just repeat after me, I give away my rishus. No, you're going to have to go and you're going to have to be maskir rishus from him. Therefore, hechmiru, the Chazal were stringent, the ein loy takana, and they said there's no way to fix up this situation, to make tiltul in the Chatzar mutter ad sheyiskar mimenu, until you rent rishus from the non-Jew. And since the non-Jew is not going to go along easily with this, because he's going to be chayshish from Isaac Shafim, he's going to say something funny is going on here. So in the end, Yidden will stay away from living with non-Jews, so that they shouldn't create Shabbos problems for them. Ice cut and vav, Ella, bittul rishus does not work. The only thing that you could do is tzarech sheyaskir mimenu. What you have to do is you have to go over to the non-Jew and you have to rent rishus from the non-Jew. Ule'inyan imahani she'ela. Do you have to actually do a rental? Does money actually have to change hands? Could you do a she'ela? Could you do a loan? You're going to lend us your rishus. Tali b'shtei adayis amavur b'sif yud beis. We'll see that later in sif yud beis. Uledei rishayin hasham loy mahani. According to the first opinion over there, it does not work. Okay, I wanted to do the Ramah as well, but I think the Ramah is going to have to wait for tomorrow, because once we start the Ramah, we have to finish the Ramah, and I don't think we're going to have time for that. Okay, thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed. All of you, I miss you. Be well.